recording has begun. Okay. Can you all see the slideshow?
Yep.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. So I just want to first say thanks everybody for giving your time and showing interest in the study. We're really excited. So we have a new annotation platform called Optimize that we want to use to annotate GA and AMD, which is geographic atrophy and age-related macular degeneration. And we want to do a user study, a prospective study to assess the tool's utility to help annotate these lesions. So here's the overall study laid out. It's going to be 5 sessions. Originally, we emailed and said 4, but we wanted to add 1 more, and I'll get into those details in a minute. So basically, each session will consist of 20 images, and the first 2, July 19th and 26th, will be manual, and they will be identical. And the point is to sort of get a feel for interrater and intrarater variability and see a measure of consistency and also time that it takes to annotate the images. Then using randomized groups, we are going to take a medical segment anything model that has been pre-trained on medical images, but not necessarily GA or AMD, and allow it to give you an annotation to see if it assists, but it will be like not fine-tuned for these diseases quite yet. Then we will train it, and it will perform much better. And we will then have you do the same 20 images and see kind of a performance and time difference, hopefully lower time, and or see quality of segmentations improve, and or like help from the tool should be like more apparent at this stage. And then finally, the medical segment anything model takes what's called bounding boxes for a region of interest. And so what's happening in steps 3 and 4 is that the whole image is being considered. And then in step 5, we will allow the annotators, the clinicians, to go in and draw specific regions of interest or bounding boxes around lesions and have them perform an AI inference and get like multiple regions annotated. So I'm going to go over all that in a minute if it doesn't make sense. For the manual cases, time will start when the image loads. Don't let that page stay idle for too long because we're trying to capture the time it takes to do an annotation. So we don't want, like dead time, making an annotation seem like it took longer than it really did. For the AI assisted sessions, as soon as the page loads, the AI will kick off and give you its guess, and the timer will start as soon as that has rendered. And then finally, for step 5, since the annotator will be providing multiple regions of interest, the timer will start when the page loads, and you can do as many AI inferences as you would like, and or still like use the paintbrush, which I'll get to in a minute, and finish the annotation and then hit submit. So what do you need to participate? So you need to be on the UC Denver Anschutz network. So I can send this PowerPoint out, but I think in the email there was in the meeting there was a link to how to set up the VPN. You need what's called Global Protect, a VPN client. Most people might already have this, but in case you don't, it's pretty simple. You need to integrate it with a program called Duo on your mobile device so that you can perform multi-factor authentication. And then once you're set up on the VPN, you should be able to head over to this link and see the app. And I'll demo that in a second as well. So when you get to the app, it has a homepage and it has a couple of videos to show you how to sign up, log in, and use the app. The sign up has already been done. I've created accounts for each person that expressed interest, and uh, before we begin the study, we will email everyone their username and password. And in fact, if it's helpful, we can do that during this demo so people can get a feel. Right now, everyone has a demo task of 5 autofluorescence images that they can use to sort of play around and get used to the app. And so we'll give everyone a week to do that. So you will log in, which consists of using your username and password that are going to be provided. You will navigate on the top left of the app, and I guess now is maybe a good time to just maybe do this literally so that it's just more obvious. So here is the home page. Uh, you know, you would actually be not logged in, so let me show this part. So up here will be sign up and log in. You will click login. You will enter in your username and the password that was given to you. And if you get the password wrong, it will let you know. Okay, and so I have a lot of tasks filling in because I'm developing this, but you should have only one task at the moment, and slowly for each session, more tasks will be added. But if you click on the tasks from the navigation menu, it will bring you to this task screen, and under the Manai segmentation tasks, all of your tasks will show up. So right now, for the purposes of the demo, we have a autofluorescence, data demo set right here, 1/23/2024. And if you click Start and Continue, that will begin a task. Note, if you do click this other button, Image List, you can get a small preview of the images, and you can change the size by toggling these numbers just to see sort of the overview of what we're about to get into. So going back to tasks, and like it says in the notes, Start, Continue, we can enter the annotation app. So the point is to segment geographic atrophy and age-related macular degeneration. And we will, right after I demo some of the features of the app, get into how to identify that more precisely. And we have Dr. Naranjan and Dr. Steve McNamara here to help us with that. And but before we get into that, let's just go over some of the buttons and the interface. So the image loads here. You can see the task, like which image you're on, 1 of 5, but it'll be 1 of 20 for the real data set. And it's already set to mark geographic atrophy with the brush. So a size was already predetermined, and you can go ahead and start marking it right here. And so there's a couple different ways that you can annotate with the app. So you can use the brush, but as you can see, it's going to get a little tedious. You can adjust the size for finer annotations. You can also zoom in if you need. And if you do, you can also now move, if you click the move tool, the image around a bit so you can get closer to some of the finer details. If you select the brush after you move, you'll go back into like edit mode. Be careful you don't set the size to 0 because then nothing shows up. So now you can kind of, fine tune the edges if you would like. As you would imagine, this could take a while. So we have another tool that you can use, and it's called the polygon tool. So if you select the polygon tool, you can start to just drop some coarse dots to try to outline the lesion. And whenever you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and hit enter, and it will go ahead and save that lesion. Now, that can take quite a while. And also, if you want to do a high resolution set of polygons, you might have to do a lot of clicking. So there is another way to use the polygon tool where you can take advantage of an automatic dropping of points to make this easier on you. So I'm going to erase this a little bit and demo erasing. And by the way, you select the brush and then you choose the radio button for erase to erase. And I usually will just make the size really large so I can like quickly do this. Also notice I know this is out of order, but the polygon is the remaining. That's because it's a different pane on top of the image. If that's in the way and affecting your ability to annotate, you can go ahead and just delete it. And so let's select the polygon tool and try one more time. So instead of just doing coarse clicks, if you double click, now you've entered in what we call footprint mode, and you can just drag the mouse without clicking and really get some fine grain control. So this should not only speed things up, but help you do a better job of annotating with the tool. So then you finish, and just like before, you hit enter, and this should save it. And now, let's say this is finalized. You would go ahead and click next image, and this will save your image and bring you to the next one. Now, let's say you feel like you either kind of remember that you did something wrong or that you wanted to make an edit. You can hit previous image, and it will take you back to the original image so that you can do it again. Unfortunately, it doesn't bring up your old annotation. You will have to start from scratch, but at least you can redo one. If you wanted to mention anything about the quality of the image or some other metadata about, what you were thinking, there's a text box here. And I guess the last thing is, if you draw, you can actually hide this pane if it's helpful. And if you make a polygon, you can also hide that pane. We've coded the polygon to automatically fill in because before some people weren't doing that. So this doesn't really do a whole lot, but at least you can, hide and unhide the polygon line so that you can see a pure mask, as we call it, or, the individual polygons that you may have been working with. So that's what you would be doing in the first two sessions of the manual annotations. Once we get to the AI, and I'm going to boot that up real quick so that it's a part of this demo. So just give me 1 second. I hid some of the AI tools, so I need to go ahead and unhide them for us. So
Ben, while you're doing that, you want me to just go share screen and go over a few things?
Sure, that's a perfect thing to do. Let me stop.
All right, let me share my screen. So just a few things. If you try to just go in without VPN, it's not going to load. So can you guys see my whole screen now?
I cannot.
Oh, really? Okay. Let's see.
And Naranjan, are you trying to load the app?
Yeah. I was just going to show them how to get on Global Protect real quick on my computer. Let's see. I need to turn on security because of the screen recording. Yeah, I was going to go on the app though.
I just turned it back on. Can you try one more time?
Yeah, it's not the app. It's just that because of the screen recording, my computer won't let me share my screen. So I'm trying to give it permission to do it with my settings.
So in the slides, if it's helpful, I have the 5 demo images kind of pasted raw. Would that be useful?
Yeah. Let's just do that then. Let's see.
We can potentially stop the recording, but I don't know if that's best.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
So I had some stuff about AMD and GA, but since we actually have a real doctor, why don't we just let him tell us all about it? So here's like the first image. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, I'm back on. I just had to restart Google to allow screen recording, but now I'm good to go.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, you wanted me to go over this? Yeah. So yeah, the two things I was gonna say was the global protect. Make sure it's turned on, and then email us if you have questions. The other thing is make sure you have uninterrupted time to go through the images, since like Ben said, it's timed. So for example, for this image, for a lot of you guys are retina specialists or residents or fellows, so maybe too basic for you, but remember the fovea is going to be dark in the in these autofluorescent images, and so is the disc and any parapapillar atrophy. So we don't want to necessarily we don't want to annotate those images. I think Ben, it should be easy for me to share now, so let me just do that so I can use the app and show people.
Perfect.
Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Great. So let me just see out. So Global Protect, you got to go connect, which will open the CU and Shoots login. I don't know, Andres, do you still have access to this?
Yes, I do. And I've been
Perfect.
doing this the last 2-3 months. I've been doing the segmentation, and it's been working
Perfect.
amazing.
Great. Yeah. The Rhymer stuff. Perfect. So now I can go on there.
So even though it's being served with HTTPS, you do have to do the little advanced redirect.
Oh yeah, it's a good thing for you guys to see. I don't know if I just quickly did it, but hopefully you guys picked up on that. And then I'm already logged in, so I don't have to do that part. This is the data set here.
Yeah, the second row.
Perfect. So what I've found from doing a bunch of these is the polygon for large lesions is best, especially large irregular lesions. So like Ben was showing, that's going to help you. That's probably the fastest way. And you said double click, right, Ben?
Yes.
Okay, and then you can just start drawing it. And I find that's probably going to be the easiest thing. And like I was saying, the fovea is going to be dark in these images. So you keep, this is not, this area right here is just regular fovea, so it's not GA. Just you'll get some practice over doing, kind of noticing that over time. But I find the polygon was probably the easiest way to, the easiest way to mark
So
large.
it's deleting the polygon object and it's leaving the paint.
Yeah, there we go. And then like the smaller lesions, you could do whatever you want. You could do a brush, or you could do a more basic polygon just by like clicking a few spots. The ones that are going to be hard to notice the difference, at least were for me, were the ones where these kind of peripheral lesions that could be iRORA, like incomplete atrophy versus complete atrophy, like these more dense areas. I think if it's really dark, you could include them. If not, you could exclude them. Over time, we're going to have multimodal imaging with an OCT overlay, so you could tell if this is iRORA or CRORA. But for now, get the areas that you know for sure are GA. And if there's some peripheral areas, let's see if there's a better image that is more confusing. I think this is actual atrophy, so I would mark this as GA. and all of this is going to be atrophy. This area, this is parapapular atrophy, so you don't need to mark those. But all this would be, true atrophy. We're still trying to figure out what to do when the GA is contiguous with the parapapular atrophy. But for now, I think, do we have any cases of that in these 20 images? Ben, do you know?
Let me scroll through real quick and see. I think you might be on the best example.
Yeah, so I think what we're doing for now is kind of noting like this is kind of the radius of the parapapular atrophy and not including it, and then just include the areas that you think are GA. So for example, I wouldn't be marking this area because this is parapapular atrophy, not due to AMD, but so we would just not include this, but we'd include everything adjacent to it. I don't think from doing the cases, there were too many cases of that. There might just be like one or two that are like that, where it's contiguous with the PPA. That's pretty much all I had. Again, this area is just regular fovea, but all this around it is going to be the edges of the atrophy. Yeah, that's all I can think of. Anything else, Ben, that you wanted me to talk about?
I think when it comes to the clinical side, anything and everything you're thinking of, I remember once or twice you told me this is actually a good moment to talk about 1 second on the app. So you can clearly see there's kind of an issue. So you can actually hit Control Z to undo, and if you have this many dots, you can just hold it down like Control Z, and it should just start erasing them like pretty quickly. Is that working for you, Naranjan?
Not right now.
Can you try the actual Control button instead of Command?
Yeah, it's just trying both. It's trying both. Maybe.
Actually, no, delete. Maybe the backspace. I kind of forget off the top of my head. Okay.
I'm trying all this.
Well,
I have a Mac though, so it could be that I'm just doing something wrong.
I will double check that that's working. You should be able to Control Z. Worst case in this situation, he could hit Enter and then just erase. Or, if something like this happens, you could also just refresh the page and just start over so that the timer is not including some sort of weird thing. And it should be a fresh start. But I will look into that.
Cool. Andres, since you've been also doing a lot of these, any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Doing this?
Yeah, I would like to add. I remember doing a couple where the peripapillary atrophy does join the GA, and what I've done is I delimited by myself what I believe is each one, because they are different scenarios, and I think that's important to consider. I would also say these images are very clear, and it's easy to delimitate the GA zone, but there's a lot of them I've done that is not as clear. So I think it's important for Ben and everyone to have the annotations, and all the comments really help them for future references.
Okay. How have you been addressing peripheral areas that are not clear? Like, let's see if there's another image here. Like, are you annotating like this area, for example?
I'm not. I'm going for the clear areas of the GA, the ones you see in that image that are temporal to the fovea and inferior. I think those are clear areas of C-RORA, and I think those are the ones, because the other ones could be I-RORA, and we would need an OCT to determine all those.
Got it.
I don't know what you think, NJ.
That's exactly what we've been kind of debating back and forth. I think some people are annotating those images, some people are not. I think the consensus is, if you're not sure, don't annotate it, because it should be pretty clear, like these areas where you can see a clear, like dark autofluorescent pattern. But these kind of peripheral lesions where, especially here, it's slightly dark but not very clear. This could be Aurora, hard to tell.
And I'm sure that it doesn't measure more than 250 microns. So by definition, I don't think that's Aurora. So I think it's best not to annotate unless you're sure.
Yeah.
Naranjan, I do have an example where I think the papillary atrophy and the GA are pretty close, but Steve, it's from the actual data set. So is it probably best not to show that?
Yeah, I would say let's not just try to keep people as blinded as possible.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's fairly contiguous here. Again, this is PPA. And sorry, Anders, you said you did annotate this or you did not annotate this?
No, I did not. I delimited what I believed was PPA and what was GA. But sometimes in past images, it's not as simple, right?
Yeah.
It's like an imaginary line you need to create and believe what you think is each one of them, right? The boundaries are not as exact.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I think NJ, the other thing too is for this data set, I think we tried to like eliminate that as a confounding variable as much as possible where we could. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple of images where they're maybe touching, but we wanted to make sure that, it wasn't really large areas that were contiguous with the PPA.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just to give people an example, I would annotate this kind of like along this border, again, because you're trying to separate this from the PPA. If there's even more confusing cases, we can, write some comments about how it was hard for you, but so we can kind of look at those cases closely. But in this case, it's somewhat easy to note that this kind of ring is the PPA.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I had. Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you, Naranjan. So what I'm going to do is show you what it'll be like to be in the next phase with the artificial intelligence assisting. So I just need to set one or two things, and then we can do that. I can maybe time lapse this part if it takes me too long to do this. Okay, I'm going to share. So we have two new buttons, and we're going to code it so that as soon as this loads, what I'm about to do happens automatically. But the ROI is listed here, which stands for region of interest, and it's a bounding box from 0, 0 from the top left corner down to some XY, which is always defaulted to be the whole image in phase 3. So if I click perform inference, it should go ahead and attempt to segment this. Now, it's going to be pretty bad when it's untrained, because even though it's a medical segment anything model, it's not totally fine-tuned for GA. So, we're going to have a clear button so that you can just erase it if it's quite bad, because, there's no reason for you to have to sit here and fix this. But in the final phase, or the second to last phase, the fourth phase, excuse me, and I guess I'll bring up the slides just to be clear. Fourth phase will have a trained AI, which should be able to do much better, and I'm going to simulate what that would look like. So just let this load real quick. So if I were to grab this, actually this is going to be a tough example, but here we go. So when this model focuses, it can do a better job. And if this is trained, I think it'll actually do much better. But then it will go ahead and kind of nail it, and you only have to tweak a little bit. let's see if we can find a slightly easier example before I move on to the fifth phase. Yeah, see, all these might be tough, but just for the sake of showing you, what happens is if you get really small with the region of interest or the context, it can actually figure out what's going on much, much better and do a pretty good job. So in the final phase, you'll actually be doing, if you would like, what I'm doing right now, where you can kind of grab multiple regions and just have it do it and go through. But for the fourth phase, the second to last phase, where it's well trained, it should be able, we've seen experimentally, to kind of take, this region, you won't have to do anything, and it should be able to pretty much get this pretty well. We'll see how it does right here. But, you can see that it's not ideal. So part of the study is trying to figure out like how much is or is the AI not helping. And so some of the cases have more lobes, and it does pretty well on these, especially if you single them out. And so this is kind of the situation. And after that, you could get in there and really try to tweak it if you thought it needed to be adjusted. Erase, excuse me. And kind of make these lines a little finer. So that's the way that we're trying to get the AI to assist and help in the process. So that's the final bit for sessions like 3, 4, and 5. There will be AI assistance to automatically give you a mask. And that's just the last little bit I wanted to touch on. And maybe it's a good time to stop for questions.
Someone just asked me, Andres was saying Aurora is 250 microns or less. How do we measure that? The way I typically when I look for like large drusen, which is 125 or higher, the central retinal artery, which I guess you can't really see here, but is about 125 microns. So times 2, it's like 250. So a lesion should be a little bit larger than twice the size of a central retinal artery width. Kind of doesn't capture well, but you can kind of see it a little bit on the top right image, part of the image, the central retinal artery. So kind of a little bit more than 2 times of that would be 250 microns. Good way clinically too, like when you're looking for large drusen, if the drusen is larger than the size of the central retinal artery, that would be a large drusen, which is 125. And then if times 2 is 250. So lesions smaller than 2 times the size of the central retinal artery thickness, you don't necessarily have to annotate. So all these little dots, you don't need to annotate. So that helps.
Definitely. That's pretty much it. We're trying to keep it kind of simple, and later we'll be able to like pull these annotations down and perform some studies with them. So if anyone has any other questions, or Steve, any final comments, or Naranjan, I think this might be a good place to cut the video.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, I think the only final, parting shot that I had was we wanted this to be, a good intro, whether on using the app or the annotating GA side, or whether your experience has been with both already, just to kind of introduce things. But we also realize, this probably isn't all encompassing. So if there's any questions or you feel like there's some ambiguity on things, yeah, please feel free to reach out to us in email, because you're probably not alone in whatever question that you come up with. So then we can address that and kind of disseminate it to the larger group.
Perfect. So I have 10 users and like associated passwords, and I don't want to show it in the video for obvious reasons. But I think after this session, we can go ahead and email those out individually so that people can log on and play with it. These first 5 are just just to get your hands on it, play with the tool, kind of learn it. The timing doesn't matter. Even the annotations don't really matter. It's more just, the practice session, and then we'll do the first real one next Friday. All right. I think, why don't we call it, and we'll just see if people have questions as they get their hands on it.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. See you, everyone.